Hey everyone, this is Alvaro Cortez Jr., aka Lance Danger, welcoming you to yet another live stream. It's been a while since I've done one. Um, Things have been pretty busy, pretty hectic. As I mentioned in the previous stream last month, I am going into production on a lot of projects that I finished, like The Cannon Girl. Um, I adapted it to the formats for specifications to be sent to the printers. Right now, it's at the printers. The files are being reviewed. Once the files are reviewed, that everything is all right to print, then the printer is going to work their magic and print that out and put it on their online shop as well. There is also keeping in mind the paper shortage that there is worldwide. It was more of a bigger thing last year, late last year. I don't know how much big of a deal it is right now. I'm As far as I'm aware, there isn't that many scheduling conflicts anymore. Like at least from the bigger companies, Marvel, DC, Image, in terms of paper and printing and production and whatnot. So, fingers crossed that it won't take too long for it to be made available. And I'm also adapting Whip Amani Wepito, the first season, that actually finished uploading on Facebook. So I'm doing the adaptation for that as well to have it as a physical comic and also available as a digital download in the same platform of Kablam and Indie Planet. And after that, I'm going to do the stupid the cat black and white edition. So yeah, it's like the most tedious part about creating comics, at least to me, is having to go through that whole exporting the files into PDFs, labeling them, making sure that everything's in the right order, making sure that everything is labeled correctly, that the pages are up to the specifications of the printers. So that's very time consuming. And that's why I kind of hurried up and finished production on those comics in particular, because those were the easier ones to like finish ahead and to just kind of have it waiting in the back burner, so to speak, for them to be printed, hopefully around the same time when the final strip goes up. The Camden Girl still has 2 more weeks to finish being updated on the Facebook and the Duck, webcomics.com. Wepamani Wepito's final strip came up this past Sunday. Usually it's on Saturday, but that last video I put up as part of the intro, uh, dear colleague in the comic book scene in Puerto Rico, Jose Reyes, um, great person, unfortunately passed away um, a little over a week ago. It's something that happened very sudden, out of nowhere, really. We know he was a little bit sick in December, and the year before that he had gotten COVID, so his health was kind of up and down, but we didn't think it was something as serious that he just passed away. So I had done like that little in memoriam video out of respect for him and the legacy of web comics that he left behind as well, and his artwork. Maybe one day I will do like a more in-depth video about his works and his life and whatnot, and how we actually got to know each other. Um, yeah, I will likely do a dedicated video of just that, but at least for the time being, while everyone kind of mourns and heals from his departure, I wanted to at least do that small little tribute to kind of expose more people to his artwork and his works and whatnot. And as the title of the live stream suggests as well, Later today, I am going to have an MRI on my right knee. It's something that's been bugging me for a little while now. Apparently, I have a small meniscus tear, so I'm just going to have the MRI just to make sure what's happening in there. And once I know what is happening in there, kind of like the same attitude with my shoulder, like we'll take it from there. My shoulders, I started physical therapy again since last week. It's been feeling a lot better. I've been able to work longer hours on the web comics and other stuff. So it's starting to feel a lot more like normal compared to this past year and other years where my shoulders have just been kind of bugging me a lot. So that's also good. And if you're still with me watching from the beginning, uh, I usually don't let the intros run that long, but just when I was about to put the camera on live, when I opened this before going live, the bottle just sprayed all over, so I had to kind of hustle and clean up before, turning the camera on. So that's why the intro rolled a little bit longer than usual. That's the good thing, I guess, about having like small intros like that ready. At least in my case, you never know what's going to happen when you go live. And I've been learning how to have like a backup plan, just in case stuff like that happens. Also, in more comic book news, um, chapter 27 of Fred Peterson, The Mighty Warlord, is halfway done. And I already uploaded the same amount of pages this year that I did all of last year. Last year, I was only able to post 4 pages, which is probably like an all-time low for updates on Warlord. So sad, man. So sad. But now at least I have the same amount of pages in about a month since I've been posting up again. 4 pages have been posted this year, all in succession, consistently. So yeah, very nice, very evil, very nice, whatever. So again, just having a lot of fun with it. Thankfully, people that have been reading it have been having a lot of fun with this chapter of Warlord. I was a little bit worried going in, to be honest, because since there really isn't any action in this chapter in particular, since it's more of a down to earth kind of slice of life story, and it doesn't involve Fred Peterson himself. I was kind of worried that people would kind of tune out and feel that's too filler-ish or something. By the end of the chapter, like people will see that it's not exactly a filler chapter. Like it does have repercussions later on in the series. Anyway, and I just been having a ton of fun with it. Like it's one of the most fun chapters that I've had making in a very long time. Like don't get me wrong, I've been having fun doing like the emotional and action stuff as well. But I think I have more fun when I'm playing around with the other characters that are not necessarily side characters because Jane is like such an important character in this story, but seeing like a story more dedicated to her and to other background characters in the comic, it's just a lot of fun to do, and it's just fun world building as well. Like if there's one thing I've really had a lot of fun doing Warlord ever since day one, it's been the world building. So let me just, on that note, pulling up the page I'm going to be continue working on, guys, is I'm working on with page 12 of chapter 27. Let me just go ahead and share that screen. It's not going to be a very long live, I think, especially since I have to leave relatively early to get that MRI done. Let's see. And boom, here we go. All right, let me get start the inking process on this one. Again, if this is the first time that you're watching my art streams, this is kind of like my process, how I go through things. Um, I'll just take a regular writing paper, or copy paper, rather. Again, aging myself. Paper like this, like so. I'll just take a ruler and kind of, don't know if you can tell, but I'll just like make the lines, have like the dimensions relatively proportionate to the dimensions of the comic book page and the Clip Studio Paint. So that way I don't have to worry too much about the art being um, too morphed or something, like if it gets like too stretched out or too shrunken in, it's all relatively proportional to everything. Everything will be coming out relatively smoothly. So I'll do like that little sketches based on thumbnails that I've done on this. And if you haven't heard the story of how I got this little like notebook, I was with my girlfriend at Nature Republic and they were like giving away free stuff from like this K-pop band, and I just happened to win the notebook, and since it didn't have lines, it kind of looks like a sketchbook. I just kind of adapted it as my I'm planning notebook where I do like the thumbnails to my web comics like Warlord and Clown Rogue Assassin and The Mysterious Exorcist. So I basically just do like, it's good to like show it every once in a while because you never know who's watching these videos for the first time ever, and that way you get a small glimpse at the method behind the madness. Like, let me cover the last couple of ones because I don't want to spoil my own chapter, but this is essentially what I do. I do grids with the pages that I'm going to be working on. I divide all the panels within the grids to, like give myself an idea of what's going to happen on each page and whatnot. And then when I do a page, I'll take some copy paper, do a more elaborate sketch. And once I do that, I run that through my scanner on my scanner printer and send Workforce. And then I'll open it up in Clip Studio Paint where I start dividing the panels or start inking, coloring, lettering, etc., etc. And that is the method of my madness when it comes to making web comics. I like to start with doing the panel layouts first. And I do that on a separate layer that I name panels. And I know there's like a panel maker option here as well that you can like make your own templates of pages already with panels and whatnot. I kind of messed up a little bit, so I'm just going to go back. Made some panels a little too small. Actually, let me put on some of that lo-fi background music that I really like from this platform while I'm at it. Right, where are you? Yeah, that's my jam right there. I hope everyone can hear this well, or at least I'll find out afterwards after the stream is done. Like I've actually managed to do a nice little setup here before. Like I would go in between tabs just like to check out the notifications of somebody leaving a comment or whatever, or reaction, or just people saying hi. And now, so I don't have to like surf through all the different tabs and going back and forth. Like I just have on the lower part of my monitor, because my XP pen monitor right now, so it can be more comfortable for my shoulder as well. I actually got one of those um, monitor elevators, or whatever they're called. It's like these little stands that you put your monitors onto, like have them more elevated, and you have space to like put your keyboard or whatever underneath afterwards. So I have that for my XP pen monitor now. And at the bottom part, like since I'm using the keyboard right now for like shortcuts and whatever dialogue I have to write, on one on my left side, I just have like my tablet running Facebook and my cell phone running YouTube. So that way, if a comment or whatever pops up, I won't miss it like I usually do. Because usually the chats, on the actual um, site to stream, which is Restream, and I believe that's synced out with StreamYard as well. So again, I'm just like trying to like prepare myself to do these streams a little more efficiently. And back with Warlord, one of the fun things is going back to like kind of doing small nods to the earlier chapters. Like right now, Jane and her new Felicidad, they're at this pub that was originally from chapter 4 and from chapter 7, I believe. And in the page I'm working at now, there is a character that hasn't appeared since chapter 4, one of the more infamous characters from the entire run, really. Not many people remember him by now, but the ones that do kind of get a kick out of him. He's the one that kind of had like a lot of banter back and forth with Cheryl in chapter 4. Let me just name these layers so there aren't any confusion. Like, yeah, I'm one of those people that I like to name my layers just in case. Speaking of Warlord, and speaking of Jose M. Reyes, the colleague who unfortunately passed away last week, he was like the self-proclaimed #1 fan of my comic. Like that really meant a lot to me, and I'm actually really glad that we were able to like have that friendship over comics, and that I was able to let him know how much I appreciated him and that I admired him as well for the kind of stories he would do for his web comic, which is actually incredibly progressive, more than you probably would have thought coming from older creators such as himself. Like if you saw the intro, one of my favorite illustrations he did was of his character, his favorite character, I guess, that he created, which was basically like what Warlord is to me. That character was to him, Zadamis. He did an illustration of her saying, "I've been fighting for inclusion since 1977," which is a really rad illustration. Like he had a lot of Osamu Tezuka, the god of manga, influence, and he was a huge fan of the classic anime series Candy Candy. So if you saw that artwork and it looked familiar, it is not a coincidence. Like he was really heavily influenced by Osamu Tezuka and Candy Candy. I've never actually watched Candy Candy. It's kind of like those, like Messenger. Like I really haven't watched Messenger, and they're like such huge properties still in Puerto Rico. Like I've only seen bits and pieces of like the more modern Messenger movies and whatnot. Like I actually bought a DVD of the original Messenger series. So I saw like maybe the original first four episodes. And it was in Spanish actually. It was a Spanish dub DVD. It was like I don't know if it was a bootleg or if it was just like a DVD that was for a specific Latin country or something. Because apparently it was like the original dub from when it was originally being broadcast in Spanish, and apparently it was a voice acting studio in Cuba, I think it was. So I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And I know, like, apparently there was like a voice dubbing studio in Puerto Rico as well at one point. I'm not sure. I liked it well enough, I guess. Like I would like to eventually take my time and kind of catch up on the lore and world of Messenger and Candy Candy and all those like classic manga and animes from the 70s. Like one of the older animes that I really liked, of course, was Battle of the Planets. I never got to finish that one. But now I know also that it was because it was never really finished in the US. Like that is like such a crazy story because as a little kid, they would of course show the reruns on TV, and I was watching them when I was living in Puerto Rico actually. My sister is older than me, so she was actually more familiar with Battle of the Planets because she watched it when it was airing as a kid, and she actually used to really like it. And it always gets to this storyline where there's like these man-eating plants that are invading the planet because of the aliens or what. whatever they were trying to conquer Earth. And in the end, the girl, I forget her name. I forget all of their names. I think the only one I kind of remember is Keop, maybe, which I think is like the kid that had like a yo-yo or something like that as his main weapon. I have to watch that show again. But anyway, the series would always end on the episode where they finally burn down all those plants. They fight off the invasion. One of the main characters, or essentially the main character, the leader of the team, he finds out that his father is the leader of this other like government team called the Red Tornadoes or something like that, and his father dies fighting off the invasion. Like a lot of drama is happening. The girl of the team apparently sacrifices herself to help burn out those plants and whatnot. And it would always end on that cliffhanger where the team leader is like quitting the team because he feels guilty about the girl that died, and I guess there were feelings in there involved. And the professor that does like all their weapons and their transports and such was yelling at him that there was a chance that she was still alive because she was wearing a special suit that was protecting her from those plants. And that's how it always ended. Like I always wondered if that's how the show actually ended, or if that's like they didn't renew like the rights for the rest of the series to be dubbed or something. Like that always ate away at me, and it was at a time in the early '90s when internet really wasn't a thing. It wasn't until much later when internet was more accessible and more information was more accessible that one time I kind of just like looked up the story of Battle of the Planets or G-Force as I knew it back then. Like that was a whole other like that was like a whole other mess to learn about how it had these different titles in the US as well, and also different titles depending on where it was dubbed and it was airing. If you see me with a ruler, there is this one trick that I had learned a while back when I was in SVA. Actually, I've been doing it a lot more lately. That's just to, like just use the ruler like you would use it like on any other, like you would use it on like any other traditional media like paper or something, to like give that kind of look that you're doing like a more traditional line with a ruler than like having it be like something incredibly perfect from the art software and whatnot. There's Jane here and Felicidad. I have to admit, I'm actually very happy with the character development of Felicidad. Felicidad, if you're not up to speed with the comic, she was a character that appeared briefly in the beginning of book two around chapter 14, I would like to say, chapter 13. And she was just kind of like the stick in the mud, kind of serious character, kind of like the foil for characters that are over the top, annoying, like Joey is, for example. Like he's always trying to get in her pants, so to speak, because he is a giant hornball despite him being in a relationship. And of course, she always spurns his advances. Even if he wasn't in a relationship, she would still spurn his advances. They've known each other since high school. And then as the story progressed, I kind of liked her demeanor because there aren't that like serious characters in the comic, and serious characters like that do well, in my opinion, to like have other characters kind of bounce off of her personality as well and give the cast more depth. And people really seem to like her from that debut, which oddly enough was with Donna as well, which is like the more popular background characters of Warlord. Of course, Donna being one of Cheryl's closest friends, probably her closest friend, aside from Jane. Of course, Cheryl and Jane and Fred and John all know each other from high school. In the case of Fred and Jane, they've known each other even longer, since they've known each other since childhood. And John is kind of like thrown in the mix there, knowing that like in middle school. As I said, right now they are in a pub that has been showcased before. So there's the bartender wiping them up. Nice, very evil. He's at a bar or whatever. Yes. And so the progression of Felicidad's character is that eventually we see that she's actually close friends with Ro, who also knows Fred and Jane, but they met in college, really. Rolando, of course, the president of the University Christian group, a position Fred actually used to have in book one. And even though I didn't get to touch upon it as much as I would have liked to, and I probably will once I do the Truthful Comics edition of writing, he was kind of not doing his responsibility Christian Club Fred University because of all the stuff of him becoming the mighty warlord and all that. And spoiler alert, if you haven't read the comic and you don't mind spoilers, like, or if you don't want spoilers, you can like listen to something else for like the next 4 minutes or something. I'm giving you guys like a little bit of time. You can also just mute me or something. Mute the video. Again, I am heading into spoiler territory if you haven't read the first storyline of Warlord. Right, and here we go. Once Shell dies in chapter 11, towards the end of the chapter, the which he made his debut in the series in that chapter, which originally in the original script he was supposed to appear much sooner than he did, but things just kept kind of escalating, especially with the Funny Bone storyline that I'm really liking. And since I want to like keep an open mind to kind of work with what the people are liking, the readers are. So I did a lot of additional scenes, especially for Funny Bone and for Cheryl herself, actually. So that kind of pushed back all the scenes that Rolando was going to be in. And since he wasn't like that much of an important character in that storyline, I put all together until that part of the chapter where he's confronting Fred for missing out and whatnot, and Fred tells him that he quits being the club president, and Rolando takes over. And of course, if you've been reading the more recent chapters, he does have a crush on Jane. Rolando does. But as some people, I guess, like to say, he is in the friend zone with Jane right now because, of course, she is hung over Fred. She always has been. So Rolando takes over as the Christian group president, where Felicidad comes in because she is a member of that group, and even though it's not shown just yet how exactly it happened, but she is close friends with Rolando, at least close enough for them to like confide in some things. Like Felicidad is essentially the only character that knows that Rolando has this not even like a crush on Jane. He just flat out loves Jane. Like he's like, again, like I don't want to say stereotypical, but he's just like very Christian like in that sense that he sees Jane as someone that he would like to eventually marry and have a family and whatnot with. You know, very wholesome, very traditional, and whatever. And of course, Jane doesn't really suspect the thing. So for the more Felicidad's character was being fleshed out as Rolando's friend, the more she had a dislike for Jane actually. Because she just saw Jane as this clueless girl that's inadvertently hurting her best friend by being either naive or just being purposely ignorant, willfully ignorant of his advances or whatever. Even though he really doesn't do much advances because he does hold back a lot because of his because of his beliefs, his Christianity, and he also in terms of like love and relationship, he's kind of more in the passive side. Like he is a very passive character, even when he's being insulted by like Jane's ex. He just stands there in silence and takes it. So there is a bit of resentment in the beginning there from Felicidad towards Jane. But once they kind of get to know each other, and kind of once also when like everything changed when Jane was in the hospital because of the events of chapters 20 through 22. She gets a concussion at the end of chapter 20. She's pretty much bedridden in chapter 22, 21, and 22. Um, at that point, Donna is visiting, and Felicidad is there as well because Rolando is in the hospital visiting as well because, of course, he's going to want to see how she is. And if you're like up to speed with the web comic, that's where it was in that hospital stay that Jane was having that Felicidad kind of develops a crush on Donna. Because, of course, Marilyn, which is like Jane's antagonist right now for the affections of Fred, is there kind of like taunting her friends. Marilyn being Marilyn. Donna, and like one of the more popular scenes actually. He just lays a verbal smackdown on Marilyn. And it does seem almost kind of out of nowhere because she's usually like very zen like and very calm and cool and collected. But Donna is one of those kind of characters that you go after her friends or her family or something. Like she will open her squinty eyes and lay the smackdown on you. Like, she is a very loyal friend, a very loyal character. So Felicidad kind of develops a crush on Donna. And Felicidad, being a Christian herself, she's a church goer, as was shown in chapter 27 as well, the current chapter. She's essentially in the closet, and she actually comes out only to Jane when she's discharged from the hospital in chapter 23. As she said in that chapter, she only like spoke to her because Rolando had told her once that Jane was a good person to just talk their problems to. So in a moment of like, I haven't like shown that conversation between Rolando and Felicidad yet. I am going to eventually touch upon their friendship and how they met, and how he came to even tell her that she should give Jane a chance at being friends, whatnot, and listener. So kind of like in a moment of desperation, she is coming out to actually, and just kind of about Donna. And of course, Jane doesn't judge her or anything. Like, actually, she's very receptive to actually having her as a friend, despite the animosity that Felicidad would show her before. Like, that was actually one of the more popular pages I've done, oddly enough. Like, I didn't think that people would react if readers are going to just find that kind of scheme of things. But luckily, people really loved that page. Sorry if I go a little silent sometimes. I just kind of get into the zone a little bit. But again, like, this whole background music is kind of a lifesaver for when these kind of things happen. So yeah, Felicidad and Jane are slowly becoming friends. Like, it's not like they're best buddies overnight, but they are definitely more civil and more trusting and less judgmental with each other. Although Jane never was judgmental, at least not like how Felicidad kind of was towards Jane. And thinking that she was maybe just kind of playing around with the feelings of Rolando, of not like giving him much attention. But of course, here in this chapter 27, she does realize that she doesn't intentionally hurt him. She just doesn't know any better. She's very, I guess, naive as Fred kind of is in terms of love and relationships and people having crushes on them. So Felicidad has definitely learned to chill a lot more around Jamie. And of course, there is the gratefulness that Jane, once she like took the risk to come out to her, Jane didn't judge her or slam her or started acting differently to she is. You know, that she is trying to being and like yeah, if that makes sense. And even though Felicity, her attitude is more looser compared to like her first appearances, like she is still going to be like one of the more serious characters in the bunch, in the group. And And another thing, like I said before, this is the same pub that appeared way back in chapter 4 and chapter 7. And if you've read since that far back, you might not remember that Donna actually works at this pub as a bartender. Like that's like her main source of income while she's, working and studying. Not very nice and whatever. Very hello, bot. Nice to see you. Embrace the bots, my friends. They will be your overlords at some point. I'm just ahead of the curve in saying hi to them in whatever language it is that they to fish you with. I have so much fun drawing Jane. She's one of my favorite characters to just draw and write for. Though I feel like her character has been a little bit weak since the last couple of chapters in 1. So I feel like her character has been being built up slowly again here in book 2, especially in this chapter. The readers have never stopped liking Jane. There are like confident and get up already. And after a lot of things that happened in book 1 that was kind of like chipping away at her confidence and whatnot, but she has been slowly regaining and I'm rebuilding it as book 2 has been progressing. So there's definitely that. And here's this fellow that we haven't seen since chapter 4. Some Joe Quesada-ish inspired smoke there. Like again, if you've read from chapter 4, this is the character that Cheryl had some banter with when she was asking about the whereabouts of Fred. And as he mentioned to Cheryl, that the only real person he kind of considers his friend is actually John. And as we kind of see through his kind of reaction to seeing Jane, he thinks highly of Jane as well. Either that or he has a crush on her too, which is totally plausible as well. Like he has a pet name for her and everything. Of course, he's part of that government-sanctioned group of superheroes. is almost kind of like an undercover type of character. Very, very nice, very evil. Maybe not evil. I'm sorry, I just recently discovered Danhausen. I don't know how many people are wrestling fans. So yeah, he's kind of like an undercover kind of informant kind of guy. One day I'll probably like tell his story, but a part of me kind of likes the whole mysterious aspect of him. Like he was a surprisingly popular character when he first came out and had that banter with Cheryl, even though he kind of came off as a jackass. People still really liked him. And I guess also because of the fact that he was so mysterious and always shrouded in darkness and smoke. Like you really can't tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy by his demeanor. Like he's a fun character to do, especially I guess because he only appears in very small doses. Little kind of sarcastic smile. You can never tell with him he's being nice or not. Like that's another fun thing about world building to just be able to go back and use something like a setting like El Buque Pub or using characters like this guy again. It opens so many different possibilities. Again, always shrouded in darkness, always being mysterious. But in this case, he does, as I said before, have a soft spot for Jane. think I'm going to end the live stream pretty soon. Probably as soon as I finish doing the outline inks on this character. I hope my voice is working well throughout this live stream. Like again, sometimes you can't tell with him if he's being a troll or if he's being more serious. So like he sees Jane and he's actually doing like the heart symbol with his hands. That's what he's doing, or at least that's how you'll be able to interpret it once I finish the illustration. I have a lot of cleaning up to do with some of these poses. But again, I just like to kind of ink in like the general detail of things, and then I go things up and making them more clear. And of course, one of the most infamous lines, well, not really infamous, but one of the more popular lines in chapter 4 was when Cheryl asks Donna what kind of drink he was having. And Donna describes the drink as per his instructions. The drink is called a sabu, a drink that's homicidal, suicidal, and genocidal. Which again is a nod to wrestling. If you know, you know. Especially if you like the older stuff that's not necessarily WWE, but like stuff like ECW. You'll know who Sabu is. Although he was briefly in WWE as well at one point. Let me get back to the panels and kind of erase where the smoke is. So the smoke looks like it's coming to panel. Very good, very nice, very good. Of course, let me give a quick save. So you guys liked this kind of, relatively deep dive into some of these characters. Really don't see that often on Warlord. That hopefully create a bigger sense of world building and the main characters themselves with their interactions with these other characters. Like I'm going to cut it short here. Um, I might do another live stream tomorrow night just to do the finishing touches on the page, like putting the um, digital zip tones on it, on the coloring and the lettering and whatnot. I just really want to lay down the inking and flesh out the page itself, and put everything in its place so that I can work on it later on. I do have to get a small bit of rest because I am, as I mentioned, going to have that MRI done a little bit later this morning. If you guys follow me on my social media, my dedicated art page on Facebook is Serene Chaos, the art of Alvaro Cortez Jr., or the art of Lance Danger as well. My Instagram is Lance Danger. My Twitter is Lance Danger. What else? If you want to follow my personal Facebook page, of course, it's Alvaro Cortez Jr. And you can also just subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to it yet. And I'll give an update, whether it be a dedicated video or a short. I've been having a lot of fun uploading shorts on YouTube. It's a good way to get a lot of views. That's definitely for sure, and a great way to get new subscribers as well. It's crazy to think that I've been doing YouTube for this long, and that over the past couple of months, I've been having one of the biggest growth spurts that I've had. Since the first time I was doing YouTube relatively consistently. I'm just going to kind of close this out here. I know the screen itself has been having a little bit of trouble when I've been seeing it kind of chops up a little bit, especially now towards the end. So hopefully things aren't too bad. I'm just going to start closing up shop here. I already saved everything. Actually, real quick, let me just check Kablam if there's any update to the status. Actually, it's still reviewing files, so hopefully that will be reviewed soon. Hopefully that will be printed out and uploaded to their digital download platform as well. Once again, I'll let you guys know through social media and here through a short live stream when it actually becomes available, the Cannon Girl Season 1 Truthful Comics Edition. Again, the webcomic itself has 2 more strips to go to upload for the first season to end. That ends. Never mind, it's going to resume uploading on Sundays. Webamani Webito had their final upload Sunday. Again, they usually upload on Saturdays, but I didn't feel like uploading after the whole death of my colleague and friend Jose MFA. I just didn't kind of anything really during that weekend, but he would have wanted everyone to just keep putting content out there because he was such a huge fan of comic books, especially Puerto Rican books and Puerto Rican creators. So I did good by him, and I uploaded that final page of season 1 of Webamani Webito Truthful Comics Edition. Next week it's just going to be kind of the page, and after that I'm going to resume uploading Stupid Cat on Facebook on Saturdays. And as always, on the new schedule this year for the time being, Warlord is being posted on Wednesday. Able to be more clown and not exorcist for the time being. Maybe I wanted to really focus on clown. I'm almost away from finishing that miniseries. Um, I'm almost at the midway point of chapter, and it's a 4 miniseries. So it would be very indeed to fit that story within this year finally, and of course work on Exorcist, the Funeral one shot, and finish that this year as well. And continue on Delta Task Force as well, DTF 6 for short, which is the other ongoing webcomic that I have. That's kind of like the action psychological drama. That's like my own battle of the planets. See how towards the end it all connects. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go rest up a little bit. Let me start on my arm. Very, very nice arm. And I hope you have a great day. And I will catch you all soon. Just going to say goodbye once again to Fred Jose. Yes.